you can't deny it, because cemetery in Russia now packed. If you go to see what is the new graves, it's more and more. They now even try not to put a flag to show these people died during this war in Ukraine.
Yes.
John Pienaar at Drive on Times Radio.
Now, Donald Trump is now meeting the president of France at the White House. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic in Russia, Vladimir Putin has been talking on the phone to President Xi of China. Now, that conversation has been described by the Kremlin as warm and friendly, so in different ways and in different directions. The three strong leaders of the world seem to be on pretty good terms. And meanwhile, we've now heard from Donald Trump in one of his Truth social media postings. And this is what he says. He says, reporting that President Emmanuel Macron has joined him in the Oval Office to speak to the G7 summit. He says it was convened by Justin Trudeau, the leader of Canada, who he described as Governor Justin Trudeau in his sensitive way, describing him as a leader of a small part of the United States as he would wish to see it. Now, he talks in this Truth social posting about the work that's going on between Russia and between America and Ukraine to strike some sort of a deal on the extraction and the development of rare earth minerals in Ukraine. He says those talks are going well. He said he hopes they'll be signed very soon. But if that is the case, that'll be an important development. They are seen by Ukraine and everyone else as being, well, part of a trade-off for American security guarantees. And then, a bit later on in this posting, he says, I'm in serious discussions with President Putin of Russia concerning the ending of the war and also major economic development transactions, which will take place between the United States and Russia. Talks, he says, are proceeding very well. Now, the posting does not explain exactly what he means by major economic development transactions, but it does not, does it, sound like tougher action on the day that Britain has announced a new set of sanctions against Russia. More on that coming up. Right now, I've been joined in the studio, I'm very happy to say, by Marina Litvinenko, the widow of Alexander Litvinenko, the former spy turned Kremlin critic, who was poisoned in this city. Hello to you, Marina, and welcome back to the programme.
Hi.
Marina, today the Kremlin's spokesman has been saying that Vladimir Putin's support in Russia is unprecedentedly off the charts. Do you recognise that description?
Everything what said spokesman of Vladimir Putin, you just never believe. It's all time what Dmitry Peskov tried to say it or represent Vladimir Putin. It's mostly not truth. And anything he said, I would be just maybe difficult to say, don't accept.
As a general rule, it's a good idea to be sceptical about words from the spokesman of the Kremlin. However, it is pretty fair to say, isn't it, Marina, that in the way that Donald Trump has invited Vladimir Putin in from the cold, that is doing the leader of Russia and Russia a very great favour.
I have my own experience. When first time Donald Trump was elected in 2016, and it was not inauguration yet, but this was interview from one studio or one station in United States. In the question, as the president of United States, what are you going to do with Vladimir Putin? Because he'd been accused of killing Alexander Litvinenko. It was 2016. And Donald Trump said, no, we don't know this. We are not recognizing. And Trump is normally try to deny anything what he doesn't like to accept and try to do what he believes is right.
Yes.
And for me, it's not news.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a theme there, I guess you could say. But now we're looking at Donald Trump moving to, well, significantly end Russia's isolation. They've been isolated, to a significant degree since the invasion. Do you think, Marina, as a supporter of dissent against Vladimir Putin, will that weaken opposition to Putin inside Russia?
It's a very strong discussion about opposition inside of Russia.
Yeah.
Putin destroyed opposition quite a long time ago. Now, this month is a very sad month, not only to say it's 3 years already war in Ukraine. Last week, we said a year ago, as a prominent leader of Russian opposition, Alexei Navalny, was killed in Russian prison. And soon it would be 10 years since Boris Nemtsov, another very prominent leader of Russian opposition, was killed. People escaped from Russia for last 3 years, most of them who might united people. And this is a very sad period for Russian people who disagree with Putin. Only things what we can talk about is a civil society.
Yes. I mean, knowing Russia as you do, most of what people in Russia, from my limited understanding, but it seems pretty clear. Most people in Russia see and hear what's going on in the wider world through the medium of the Russian media, which is mostly sympathetic and controlled by the regime. How much do ordinary Russians know about the huge losses that Russia has suffered on the battlefield in Ukraine, and about the appalling crimes that have been committed by Russian forces in Ukraine?
I would almost divide Russian people for who try not to know.
Yeah.
They know truth. You can't deny it, because cemetery in Russia now packed. If you go to see what is the new graves, it's more and more. They now even try not to put a flag to show these people died during this war in Ukraine.
Yes.
It's a lot. But
To minimize the losses that are taking
exactly.
place.
But in other people, they know for sure what is happening. When I'm watching program or listening program, what outside of Russia, but in Russian language, you can see this is people from Moscow who is listening this program. This is people from another cities. It means you might blocked any access to this, what Russia is doing constantly. But people in Russia try to get through information. It doesn't mean Russian people completely brainwashed.
Right. In your view, Marina, tell me, can you see in your mind's eye an end to Vladimir Putin's rule in Russia? What would it take to bring that about?
It would be the most sweetest dream for all of us. I remember when Alexei Navalny, I just mentioned, was arrested and put to prison, and war in Ukraine started. I believed Putin will not survive for a long time during this war, and Alexei Navalny would be released, and we will have a real leader of Russian people. But it did not happen. And now every us who live outside of Russia just saying we need to live longer and see when Putin will be finished. Because for all of us, it's important to see Russia not under Putin. And this is a very important moment. I know it's not going to be immediately a bright future for Russia, because this war brought people to nightmare. And people who is fighting now in Ukraine, they are not going to be a peacemaker in Russia. And this will be a lot of problem after this. But Putin, for me, it still be the worst nightmare for all of us. And 3 years ago, when we discussed Ukraine need to be supported, because Ukraine, it's a small country, but brave country. But it was not for 3 years, just now, when most of us realize, because I believe I belong to European society, just now Europe more understand how it was not enough to support Ukraine from very beginning. I was in Ukraine 3 years ago, exactly on the day when war started. And I saw these people who never, ever just surrendered. And I knew they will fight to the end.
Marina Litvinenko, thank you so much for coming in. It's a pleasure to see you and to talk to you.